Hey everybody, welcome back. Today we're here to talk about the surprise hit of 2023, Godzilla Minus One. And as always, I have here with me Ramon
What's up, guys?
and Ro.
Howdy, howdy.
You
This is a
forgot you forgot his pet dinosaur right there.
and Ro's pet dinosaur.
It's really a crocodile or alligator. I don't know what it is.
You know what?
No,
It's not. It's not Godzilla though.
it's not a Godzilla
It's
toy.
a lizard, though, of some kind.
Okay.
Ramon, I was pleasantly surprised when I went to see this movie because you had told me to go see it because I was going to cry, and I was a little bit confused as to why I would cry in a Godzilla movie. Little did I know as I was watching this film, or halfway watching this film, that I would be crying for most of the majority of the movie after the first half. But let's talk about it, guys. What did you think about Godzilla Minus One?
I mean, I thought it was a freaking amazing movie, and I've been watching Godzilla movies since I was like little. And I think at one point, like I don't know, every time I remember Godzilla, you just like Godzilla because of the monster scenes, the destruction, the when you have the kaiju's fighting because of the fights, right? But like even the most recent movies, like how often is it like is the human component like anything substantial to the movie? It's not. Like even when they had Millie Bobby Brown and who knows who, like, you know, these people that you're like, cool, an actor that's been doing stuff, let's see something, and nothing, right? Like it's still about Godzilla, still about destruction. And this one was entirely kind of different. Like I almost even felt like at one point, like I was like, Godzilla who? Like back off, dude, back off, like leave me alone. And yeah, man, it was I told you it was gonna make you cry for a reason, because there I was sitting in the movie theater, and holy crap, was I a mess.
No,
Beautiful movie.
no, you're right, Ramon. Because if you do look back at some of these modern Godzilla movies, they've had big actors in them. Like you're talking, Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch in the first Godzilla.
Ferris Bueller,
In King Kong, you had Loki and Mrs. Marvel.
John Goodman.
Yeah, so it's just like, in this, what was the last one? King Kong, Skarsgård was in it, King Kong versus Godzilla. So it's like, yeah, man, you get all these great
Pennywise.
actors, but no, not
Oh
Pennywise.
no,
That's
the dad, yeah.
yeah, the brother, the oldest
Brother.
brother. But yeah, man, it's
The
just like
Viking one.
the human people come in and come out, and you tend to forget about them. But in this movie, man, the people made this movie. It was just ridiculous. Ro, you kind of we forced you to go see this movie, but you were thankful that we forced you, right?
No, I'm kidding.
Jerk.
No, so you didn't really force me. Like I wanted to see it, but then this kind of just gave me the opportunity to actually go see it. But yeah, like I tried to recruit George and Jose, but then I just went with Jose. But yeah, like I went to the movie kind of not really knowing anything about it, and I think I realized that it was in Japanese when I was trying to look up the tickets, and I was like, oh wow, it's in Japanese. I'm like, okay, cool. I didn't even know that was in Japanese, and then apparently I had seen a clip from it on TikTok. I didn't know that I had.
Same.
Yeah. But like, I went to see it with Jose, and then like at the end of it, like I looked over and like Jose was wiping off tears too. Sorry, Jose. But like I was like, yeah, it's. I loved how much of a person movie that had Godzilla than a Godzilla movie that had people in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Because it made sense.
Well, by any chance, was the clip that you saw was it when Godzilla was kind of like T-Rex size? Is that the video you saw?
When
That's
they're
what
in
I.
his first island.
Okay.
No,
No.
I saw the one on the train.
Oh,
Wow.
okay. For me, it was like when Godzilla was T-Rex size, and I was like, dude, like, why did I see that? Because then, when I saw the movie, that part I wasn't surprised by because clearly I had gotten spoiled by it. But, dude, yeah, like, bro, thank God you didn't see the movie, in these upcoming weeks because they're actually going to have a black and white version of it showing. So now imagine if you would have gotten to see it, not knowing it was in Japanese, and then you're
And in
excited-
black and white.
and black and white. I think you would have been totally surprised by it.
Yeah.
But like, what am I watching? And it's not
Dude.
like it's a foreign thing, man. We watch so many things in Japanese, but
Yeah.
I can tell you that's the sad part is that there's so many people that didn't go see it or haven't gone to see it just because it's in Japanese. and I get it because a lot of people want to like not read while they're watching a movie. But I think this movie is definitely worth it. Like it's a
Read?
one
What's
that I'm
that?
like, yeah, exactly. See, some people don't even know how to. They just like pictures. But no, I mean it's definitely worth it. I'd suggest people because it doesn't even feel like a heavy, like a cute conversational movie. Like there's obviously lots of conversations, but it doesn't feel like you're like having to read quick to like catch up. Like it was a pretty good pace for the actual like dialogue, and I really enjoyed that too because again in the movie that you're going into it, I think emotions led the way, not just like words. So that was a great component of it.
No, dude, everybody that's doing a top 10 list for the year, just like we are doing one next week. Everybody's like taking out a movie and putting in Godzilla, and then the crazy thing is like they're not just throwing Godzilla minus one in like top 8 or 9 of the year. They're like putting it like in 3, 4th spot. That's how good of a movie this is.
Yeah.
I think everything about it is impressive, man. The budget, the way it was done, the way it's making money. It's just kind of like I'm almost nervous what the next sequel is gonna be because this one did such a good job with the limitations of the budget. So hopefully the next one is bigger, but not as huge as some of these Hollywood ones, you know, because we're obviously already getting that next year with the Godzilla and King Kong movie that we saw that's upcoming.
And that's the crazy part too. You finish watching Godzilla Minus One, and you're like, "Wow, such a beautiful movie!" Like, oh my god, like the human component of it, even just like the Godzilla component of it too, because he was a pretty great looking Godzilla. Definitely very fearful. Like you watch it, and you're like, "Holy crap!" Like I'm really afraid of this thing.
And he definitely looked practical too.
He did. It was
all like CGI, kind of like the Matthew Broderick one.
but he still looked like the original Godzillas, right? It still looked like a person in a bodysuit, but that's kind of like the fun part of the movie that it's just like it's the Godzilla that we kind of know, you know, obviously some little enhancements. But no, what I was saying is like I think part of what's like great about that too is that ultimately you have this such a good movie, and then at the same time I just saw the trailer of the newest other Godzilla movie, and you have like him sprinting with King Kong, and King Kong has like a metal arm, and I'm just like, what world? I mean, great. Like, I'm gonna watch them, right? Like, I'm gonna watch it for sure. But it's like, what world do we live in that we have these two very like juxtaposition, emotional like types of stories where one's definitely more like human led, like makes you cry, and then this other one's gonna be like almost like a Transformer-esque, like Michael Bay type of movie where it's just explosions, like sprinting Godzilla, like you know, I don't know. So, again, it's this untold type of story.
No, man. I mean, I'm just waiting for them to throw Ultraman into one of these movies, and it's like hell yeah. But no, this movie, man. I think just from the beginning of it, that the pace, what the pace of it is gonna be, and it's just like you get this shot. I think it's of him landing his plane. They're checking it because apparently there's problems with it. But then, the mechanics are like, hey, there's nothing wrong with this plane. And I guess this is towards like the end of the war. So I understand, man, like why take these instructions, commands, if you know that the war is about to be like called off. So I don't disagree with what he did.
No, but it's one of those things that's kind of problematic because you kind of saw like in the movie because of what he did. Like you saw like right when he got back into like when he got back home, and like his house was like destroyed and his parents or whatever, but like the neighbor lady was like aren't you a kamikaze pilot? Like why are you here? Like it's because of you that like this happened. Like you weren't able to protect my kids or whatever because like she expected him. Like there was
die
these
for
like
his country.
That there was this like expectation of like obedience and all this stuff, and especially in that situation that you're supposed to go and die for your country kind of thing. And as honor is such like a big part of the culture that it was a big deal that like that happened. It's definitely the more you know about Japanese culture, it probably impacts more. So I don't know. I kind of wish that like I did know more because I'd probably understand the relevance a little bit more. But yeah, like I definitely understood to the point where like you're supposed to do your job because that's what you're told to do, but then you're like scared for your life. So
Yeah.
And then also the part about his parents that they said to come back alive or something like that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and I think it's a little beyond that in a sense. Like I love that the movie does that, right? Because like right from the beginning, they paint him as a coward, and there's no denying it. Because first of all, yes, he abandoned his post, and we know what it was. Like we know what he was supposed to do. So number one, he's not doing it, and you're right. Like kind of cowarding because he doesn't want to lose his life. Number two, when they're in the island and there's the scene where like the baby Godzilla is finally there, and you know the mechanic tells them
baby
it's like
Godzilla.
shoot that 20 shoot the 20 millimeter like gun at him, like that's not gonna survive it, like do it. And he even freaking runs away from that too. So like right from the
Yeah.
beginning, you get this picture, and it's very much like Raul said, in a culture where like again disappointment and kind of not obeying is such a big fail in a sense. It's something that not everybody relates to, because I mean we're from a culture where like men are supposed to be macho and you're supposed to be brave, and even just that dynamic of like you're supposed to serve your country and do this, and here you have this guy that's one, abandoned his post, two, is not stepping up, and three, he still seems like he's running, and who can blame him in a sense, because he wants to be alive and he was afraid. And so there's like the part of it that you're like you really are conflicted with in the beginning, because you're really trying to figure out like, crap, what would I do? Like, am I really gonna, well, one, do that to yourself in the active duty? Like, are you that type of person? Which sucks that the Japanese government made those people do that. And then number two, in a situation when you have a giant ass monster in front of you already killing half the people, like, are you really gonna step up and most likely get yourself like killed again? Like, you know, like, so it's like you can kind of like sympathize with him, like kind of understand where he's coming from, but it just kind of sucks, or just, you know, empathize, I guess. But like it kind of sucks that the situation that you're like you conflicted with. And I love that the movie puts you with that like dilemma right away, because again, you know that it's about moral conflict and the human component of like, what are you going to do to save lives? And you know, with the Shikishima or whatever his name was, like I don't know, I don't know how I felt about him in the beginning, but it's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that kind of carries on throughout the whole movie too. Like what happened there, and then how he felt about it.
Yeah,
Kind
and
of
obviously you saw
like
how
it stayed with.
yeah.
Yeah, it stayed with him all the way through the end.
Yeah, do you guys think if he would have shot Godzilla when he was at that young age, he could have stopped him at that point? That's something that I kind of kept thinking about. Like, I would have liked to have seen what would have happened, but you did see that Godzilla had a way of healing himself, almost
Yeah.
like Wolverine. So yeah, it's more than likely he could have shot. Godzilla would have taken care of him at that situation, and then technically by him not shooting Godzilla, he was able to live, and obviously later on in the movie, he saves the day. So I don't know, man. It's one of those dilemmas. Like, I want to see where he did take the shot, but thankfully he didn't, because then later on because of that result, he ended up being the hero. So it's just kind of crazy how that works.
Yeah,
Even
and I
though
mean,
thousands or maybe millions of people died.
yeah, I mean, obviously, this is a direct commentary about World War II and then what happened to the
Yeah.
Japanese people. So
The
it's like
nuclear war,
obviously, yeah, and so it's supposed to be like that idea of like you don't know what would have happened, and yeah, like I don't know, like I wasn't looking at too much up for this movie, because again, it's more about reacting about it in a sense of like I love this so much. I didn't need anything going into it, but there was a couple things I was interested in. I looked them up, and it's just like that idea, Carlos, I love, because I don't care like if he would have been able to shoot him or not. Regardless, I feel like one bullet hole, him being that close to the plane, it would have been the end of the pilot. And so I think that was just like the most important thing. But I don't know, like, and I guess like in Shin Godzilla, when he goes through the evolutions, maybe when he was a little worm, like the little larva, like maybe a gun could have done something to that Godzilla, right? But in this one, we just don't know.
It sucks, man, because it kind of did feel like later on in the movie. You just feel like this guy has like a personal vendetta with Godzilla. Like, Godzilla is like after him, and it's like, why won't you let me? And I don't want to get too ahead. Let's stick with the island and him. We know what happens. We know that most of the mechanics passed away. There's the one guy that he seemed to have known even before he landed in that situation. He survives. He gives him the pictures of all the mechanics that passed away with their families, and it's rough, man. It's rough, like thinking like, how do I live going forward, knowing I'm sort of responsible for this, and I understand how that guy is feeling, man. Like, I understand it, and it's just like, I think that's what I love about this movie. This movie's overall message is like live, man, like live, because even though you feel like you can't make a difference, if you just keep holding on and keep kind of like doing positive things, like you can make a difference later on in your life. It's never too late for somebody to make a true difference.
Man,
Oh,
but
that's such a positive message, Carlos.
such a great message.
And with that, we'll end this podcast. No.
Yes, we got everything we needed to get. No, but I mean, I obviously I think that's what's like so great about the movie again, because you don't start like on a happy note. You start after like, again, they even like preface the whole World War II and the atomic blast, like everything, right? But then again, you're still dealing with tragedy. You're still dealing with like a person that you're not really relating to, or at least you don't agree with. But again, put yourself in those shoes. And what I was telling Carlos, like one of the things that I really enjoyed about it, or Carlos mentioned it to me, but I was thinking about that when I was watching it. It reminds me of like some anime, like freaking Evangelion, like Shinji. Like he reminded me of Shinji so much. Like here's this kid who's like supposed to be responsible for like basically or piloting this like crazy world saving like mecha
Jaeger.
And he is or Jaeger mecha Jaeger, like all the above.
Ava, yeah.
And he, well, yeah, obviously, but but yeah, at the end of the day, he is totally just like cowarding like most of the freaking like anime, like, right? He's like sitting there like crawling like on the floor, like rocking back and forth as people are getting shot left and right, or people are dying. And it was the same feel, like, and I kind of love that component of it. And again, this has to do with like the fact that the movie was in Japanese, that is kind of obviously led with Japanese actors, and it gives you that same like idea of a character who just can't step up, who can't rise up, who can't like be brave enough. And like as much as you hate to watch it, damn, does it do for a really good like end of the movie, right? Like the whole hero resolve.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you know, I exactly, Ramon. Like, I just felt like the whole time people were like, "Dude, like, why won't you pilot the plane, man? Like, just pilot the plane, like,
shoot them, like,
just shoot them." And it's so crazy because again, this character, and I mean, overall, like, I think by the end of the movie, you know, clearly I do like him now because you know, like that whole. But dude, he was an asshole. Even besides the whole like piloting the Ava, like obviously we're gonna talk about the relationship we had with the little girl, and then you know this other woman that they're raising this child that's not even hers, and like the whole time, like, you know, that's also frustration where you're like, dude, like step up, like this woman, this lady, like this young woman's ready to like be a family with you, and then you're telling this 4-year-old like I'm not your dad. And it's like, oh my, it just makes you hate him. It makes you freaking hate him, man. And it's just again, I think by the end of the movie I feel a little bit different about him, but man, throughout this whole movie just hating this guy.
But question, like when he explains why he doesn't want her to think of him as a dad, did you feel any better? Because it was like, I think the group of like his like work crew later on, like the people that are out like fishing for the mines or blowing up the mines, like they basically say like, why won't you just accept it, and why won't you just be the father role? And he just says that he doesn't think he deserves that life. And I feel like that was the first moment when you're like, okay, yeah, he was being an asshole. That's so fucked up. Because of course I hated hearing that, like, especially telling that to the little girl to her face, like, I'm not your dad. Like, what the fuck?
It's your problem, yeah.
But even hearing that, then you really know, because then you know, like, he's really in this turmoil, this like headspace of like, I don't deserve to be alive. Like, obviously I wanted to be alive, and that's why I did all these like cowardly things, but at the end of the day I don't deserve this life. And I think that was another beautiful like continuing like story. It was about him gaining not only the bravery, but also him feeling like he deserved to be alive, and he deserved to be a dad and husband, and you know, that whole thing. But man, well, just all these like internal like struggles that he was dealing with are so good, like even if you don't agree with them.
I also feel like Noriko, which is like the girl, I feel like she forced him eventually to be like, "What? Tell me what's going on. Tell me why. Tell me the reason, so I understand." And I feel like maybe like had she done that a lot earlier, like she would have understood like what was happening, and she would have like helped them, you know, like get over it. But I think it's just the fact that she didn't even know what was happening with him. She didn't know the guilt that he felt. And I mean, Raul, you're kind of like the perfect guy to talk about this, because obviously you went to war, and I don't even know what dark secrets you're still hiding from us, you know, and I've known you for like the past 20 plus years.
No, so, and here's my thing, that even that, or something that they did that I really liked that they did, because it kind of added to it, because like the not wanting to die, like being a kamikaze pilot, like that's something that's pretty understandable. But then also when Godzilla is over there like destroying everything and he's gonna kill the like mechanics, like he has a chance to kind of like redeem himself and do like an act of bravery, and in that case, and not really doing it for yourself, is doing it for them. Like even if it fails, like he has a chance to even try something, to do something that might work. Because a 20-minute, like a 20-millimeter round is not small. It's gonna do like a pretty good amount of damage considering the size of Godzilla. It might actually do something. So the fact that he cowards away from that, and then he like just runs away, and the way that he did it too, and then like he passes out or whatever, like it's. So people talk about like survivor's guilt and stuff like that. So that's when somebody doesn't do anything, but just people around him have died or whatever. But in this case, because of his inaction, like more people died, and then there's that one guy that's still alive that like knows what happened. So like you kind of get the whole. Well, for me, like I understood the whole fact that he was like punishing himself for what happened, for what he did and for what he didn't do. So he, like I knew off the bat, like he's probably like wasn't gonna think that he deserved a family. He didn't deserve to be happy. And then, and you saw it too, that one moment that he was crying. I don't remember if he was crying, but like he was kind of like begging to like let go of the pain or whatever that he had. And then all of a sudden it kind of gets worse because of like what happened in the town or whatever with the baby mama that's not really the mama. So and you saw his reaction too, that like that's what I get for trying to get rid of this pain or whatever, is that like I get pulled back in because I don't deserve to be happy, kind of thing. So it's I don't know. It's one of those things that you feel that he kind of deserves to be miserable because of his cowardice, but then you also feel bad because you, in some ways, you can kind of relate to it because like we've all like made mistakes and did bad things or messed up or whatever, where we feel guilt about it, and that's kind of what guilt is that it turns into a giant monster that shoots out radioactive fireball things if we let it.
No, man, you're definitely talking like a man that's hiding something for sure. But we'll wait for you to
just
feel
don't look
like
in my basement.
So I'll wait for you to just tell me one day, for me to just hug you and be like, "Tell me what's wrong, bro. Tell me why."
You can just hug me whenever.
There you go. No, I really like the introduction of the girl and the little girl, because again, that was even just the story itself, right? Because he shows a little bit of like, I'm gonna do something to like at least prevent these girls to be on their own for like a second, and then they kind of get stuck. He gets stuck with them, and it's like a beautiful relationship in a sense of like it's forced upon him, like you were trying to say, like it's forced upon him. But I think like that's definitely like his growth comes from that relationship between the two, and between all three of them, because at the same time, even though he felt like he didn't deserve that, to be with someone and to have a kid, like he was forced to take care of them, or he was forced to be part of there and be some sort of a supportive this father figure, even if he didn't think he was gonna be the father, like in that sense. And that obviously led to like the end of the movie and his like coming back, because like he did eventually figure out that there was more to him just always feeling crappy about what he did and he didn't do, and why his parents, like, that he was the reason why his parents died. And in reality, like, could you really blame him? No, it's not his fault. Like, he wasn't the single one person that was going to save him, like all of Japan or all of like, these cities that were bombed until the end. Obviously then he was really a significant role, but it's just, I don't know, it's just a beautiful thing that is just like again, this movie bringing that human element and the human connection to really build upon a figure and a character. And I don't know, like I did love seeing him eventually, when you started seeing him being more attached to them, like when she told them when the, what's her name, the, oh my god, the mother,
I don't know I don't remember any names.
no he was almost like, no, why are you gonna get a job? And
do I not
that was like,
send you enough money?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that was the first time that, like, in a sense, like, he was kind of like, he showed that he truly cared for her, and he didn't want her, like, he wanted her to be a stay-at-home mom,
Yeah.
and take care of the girl and be there. But so just even seeing like his growth and being like, I don't want anything to do with you guys, but fine, I'll let you stay with me. To like, why are you taking a job? Like, stay here, take care of the kid. Again, it's just great character development.
Well,
And
Yeah.
when he took the kid too, you even saw him like he almost left the kid there, like on the bench, and left it. But then he ended up like taking her, and then the lady even asked him like, why did you wait so long, or why'd you keep her? Like, why didn't you just leave her there? Like
Yeah.
anybody else would have just left her there.
Yeah.
So you kind
Yeah.
of got the glimpse that like he's not like a bad person. He just made some bad choices.
Yeah.
Well, this whole thing kind of reminded me of like Life of Pi. This whole situation of like, when you look at that movie, it's like the tiger was sort of helping him, keeping him alive because he was all of a sudden like in charge of feeding this tiger so the tiger wouldn't eat him. So that's kind of what it reminded me. It's like this idea that's like, hey, if I go and do this very dangerous job where my life could technically end any day, but I'm doing it to get money to give to these women, this girl and then her child so that they can live happy and have a roof and be able to be fed. But then again, like Ramon, you mentioned that when she says like, hey, obviously there's no romantic relationship between us. So I need to go and get a job, which possibly could lead for me finding a husband and getting married and then moving out. He kind of took that as like, oh my God, like I don't want that because here I am for the past 4 years. I've been using you as an excuse to like try to make up for all the stuff that I've done. And it's just like, yeah, at that point he needed to, and he gets to the point where he's like, he realizes like, I need to actually start letting myself live. But little did he know, by him wishing that automatically called Godzilla back to his hometown.
Like,
but I mean, he even had that prior
he
encounter.
wants to be
though.
happy. Let me destroy things.
Yeah, but they had that prior encounter with Godzilla, right? First, the one where they're cleaning up the mines, and yeah, so that was really cool.
And let's talk about that group, the people that he was doing the jobs with, like the professor, like Professor Noda. That's the only one that I know because he was one of my favorite characters there. Like how good of a group of people were they to him too? Because they also pumped him up. They were also kind of cheerleaders there too. Because one of her first things is that he was a great shot. He knew how to shoot the weapons. Like he knew like how to not curve the bullets, but he knew kind of like the wind, everything about it, and the bullet drop.
Like
well,
this,
yeah, because of the bullet drop. But at the same time, again, I'm thinking movies. I'm thinking about freaking Wanted. So my head just lingered. So, anyways, yes, no curving that type of bullet. But no, like they were a great like quadruplet or quad. Oh my God, I can't even think today. But anyways, they were a great group of people. And I love their like interaction, especially the whole idea that they were in this like rickety ass boat, but it was perfect because it wasn't magnetic and it wasn't gonna attract the magnetic mines, and it was just like so good of a relationship that he starts building because they're stuck on this little boat. Every interaction is so significant, and then you have these guys with totally different personalities, like the doctor who's like nerdy, but he's really cool and really knowledgeable and really sweet. You have the young kid who thinks he's like, he's kind of sad that he wasn't able to like partake in the war, and he just really wants to prove himself because he's like, oh, I didn't get my chance, here it is again. And then the captain who's like hilarious because captains always are. Like, I just feel like they just have this personality of like, I take care of you guys because you guys are like my ship crew, but at the same time, like I'm not the best one here, and I'll let you, Professor, deal with this, and I'll leave you deal with this. And I don't know, it was just a great interaction. But yeah, that led to a lot of great scenes because that's first interaction with Godzilla in a while.
Yeah, it almost kind of reminded you of Jaws, just in the ocean. And honestly, I'm surprised the professor was doing that job because he was probably like, I think they were surprised later on when he was doing all the planning. He was probably like in a high position with the government during the war. So maybe he also had some penance for something that he did in the past. And maybe he's like, this is the job that I deserve. And if I die any day, like, let it be. But it's like, it's crazy, man. But yeah, I love that. I love that interaction between, again, the human element in this movie is truly great. And that's, I think, what makes this Godzilla movie so awesome.
And it's more like, well, not global, but it's more national too, because like this exactly what you were saying, like Professor Noda, like it wasn't just about like you said, it was like not like he was trying to redeem himself, but I feel like that whole crew, when you start meeting like the group of citizens or like ex-military that are gonna take on action against Godzilla because the government won't, you really see that it's more than just one person who feels like they're still obligated to serve their country, not because they didn't do enough, but because they still can do more. And when you have a government that wasn't doing enough, that they're like, oh, Godzilla, this giant like monster, like yeah, let it, like we'll like give it to the Soviets or we'll give it to America and then let them deal with it. And in reality, these group of people, which eventually, like obviously Professor Noda was such a big significant part of that plan, it's like it's great because then you see like people rising up who aren't really in that power, but they take the power for themselves and they freaking save the day. Like, I don't know. It's just like about like the community too was great. Like that. That's
Yeah, and the other thing that I liked about it too is that it kind of shows that like just because so at the time in the like in the 40s, like Japan was evil. Like
Yeah.
here, like Japan was evil, but
Yeah.
like this kind of shows you that like just because like a country or whatever seems like it's evil or whatever, that doesn't mean that like all the people are evil kind of thing. Because like whatever side you fall on with like any war or whatever, that doesn't mean that like everyone from that place or whatever is horrible people that want to do this, which is kind of always relevant because there's always conflict between different nations or whatever.
No, then I've known that about Japan for a few years now. This idea that they did horrible experiments. There's a reason why the Chinese and Japanese have like a bad history with one another.
Oh, yeah.
And like I've been recently trying to look for like a good documentary to like give me, what was happening and what's the reason behind it.
Mhm.
It's still kind of hard for me to find a specific one for me to like really absorb everything bad that they were doing. But yeah, man, like I really enjoyed in the movie when they were talking about the government, this idea that the government, when they, they design their tanks, they're not really, for soldiers to survive if they get shot at, inside the tank. Their planes will have eject buttons. It's almost like this regard for human life, and it's just like soldiers are just soldiers, and even if they pass away, we can get more. And it's just I don't know, man, it's crazy. Like that whole idea of a government that doesn't care about you, it is really like sad, man. And I don't know, because obviously we still even have that today in some parts of the world, but it's just crazy.
Like almost all the parts.
Itadori would disagree with that mentality.
How so, Raul? How so?
Just because.
Okay.
No,
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, like, yeah, that's like truly a beautiful component. But I think it's more so like that sense of duty is just like so important to this movie because, like, again, it's just the ongoing topic. But then it becomes not just duty to your country because at that point they're saying that the country's not doing enough. So it becomes duty to the community, duty to the people that you love. And like if you're talking about like a freaking success story, like clearly I think that's why this movie like made people cry and it made people really emotionally attached because at the end of it you are like Carlos was telling me he was like super cheering for him as he's flying the plane towards the end, but it's just like in general like all like that last part of the movie as they're kind of like getting together, they have this plan, you're just like, you're probably like thinking they're all gonna die or something's gonna happen, especially because they said that too, right? Like at one point they're like, well, the whole plan is to not have any casualties. But in reality, we've seen Godzilla movies. People are going to die. And it's incredible to see like kind of their resolve and their like tactics and everything together was just beautiful. So like, I know we're kind of like skipped a little part, but it's just like, I don't know. I think I was just so impressed by that. It just looked like a really good plan of action to actually be effective in one way or another, even if at the end it's not really doing anything.
And really the big reason why it works is because like you get so many events pushing him down and then like making him look bad that like it grows like so slowly, and like his redemption where he like slowly starts getting like redeemed like tiny little bits at a time throughout this whole movie, and then you have like everything kind of culminating on the fact that he's already planning to crash this plane into Godzilla or whatever because he knows that he can be hurt from the inside or whatever. So he replaces like one of the guns with a bomb, and he replaces something else with a bomb, and then he you kind of get this idea that he's resolved to like go kamikaze on Godzilla. And oh, go ahead.
Oh no, sorry. Keep going.
Yeah, so until the end moment until the end moment where you think that like, okay, he did it or whatever you're thinking, and then you kind of get that small like spark that like maybe it's gonna be okay now that all this is over.
I was trying to say, like, previous to that, like, what was the moment that caused him to be even more like that word where he just was so resolved? Is the fact that when Godzilla shows up in that city where
wait. Now I'm gonna do what you did to Raul, and like even before that, there's the whole. I mean, I do want to talk about Godzilla because I mean, the first interaction with Godzilla, it is, when they're cleaning up they know Godzilla, the U.S., Japan, the Soviets, they all know there is a Godzilla and he's destroying things. And I do want to talk about the first interaction where, they get sent to like sort of like stop Godzilla, even though they're like, what are we doing here? Like, like they don't really even believe, but then, they have him to tell him like, no, Godzilla's a real thing. I saw him, we need to get out of here. And then next thing you know, the boat next to him gets eaten by Godzilla. So I just want to talk about Godzilla. I know we talked a little bit about the design and how he looks.
And even before that, I'm kidding.
Nah, but it's just like, like we do get him with that laser breath, that nuclear breath. I don't even know what to call it at this point, this laser beam that he does. And dude, this movie sort of does change that, like I don't think I've ever seen a Godzilla movie do his laser breath like that, because even in the newest ones, it's more like a nuclear explosion. Here it's just like a concentrated laser that once it hits, it will explode in a nuclear form. And I thought that was just so cool, man, the way it was done. And obviously we get a better shot of it later on when Godzilla is attacking the city, which I don't know if it's Tokyo or where he's actually like stomping.
Yeah, it's in Tokyo, just a certain neighborhood in Tokyo.
Yeah, that whole Godzilla and the lasers, like, it's so cool, man. Whoever came up with the idea, this whole spikes behind it, rising and glowing, and then he's able to do that, freaking deserves like I don't know, a lot of attention as far as like, this is the guy that came up with that and he needs a raise.
Well, yeah, I mean, I like this atomic breath because like his little spikes would pop up one by one, and it kind of reminded me of like a machine like powering up, it was like power up, and then eventually just a freaking blast. And like you said, like it was pretty, like Shin Godzilla had a good beam, because remember that one, like freaking mouth opens up and he like shoots this like crazy blast too. But besides that, like that's probably the two coolest ones that I've seen that are like.
I haven't seen Shin Godzilla. I wanted to see that earlier. I haven't seen it.
Disappointment. And I and I know Raul has it, but I expect that from Raul.
I know, that's why I didn't want to say nothing, because I'm like, but yeah, it's too late now.
Shin Godzilla, and the reason why it's important, because Shin Godzilla is another movie that, like, if you guys haven't seen it, watch it. It's a whole, that's for like more like, I think, Godzilla fans, because it does a lot with the evolution of Godzilla. It's not just like singular in a sense of who he is, but there's also like a huge element of like human interaction, but it's different. It's not like a story of humans. This is more about like their protocols, how they actually respond to a real life like emergency. But anyways, this atomic blast or atomic breath is freaking insane also in that movie. So you would at least compare it to it, but I think this one's still really, really good.
Yeah. No, I mean, I want to see Shin Godzilla. I just, after I told you about it, I guess I just never rented it. It's never been able for me to like stream it.
Yeah.
But I gotta watch.
That brought it up to begin with.
Yeah. But thank you, because it's great. So
yeah, Ramon actually has like the willpower to like spend $5 renting a movie, where I'm like, not today, Apple, not today.
No, but I mean, yeah, character design on Godzilla was pretty good. Like we said earlier, he actually looks really good. He seems practical, even though he still looks like a man in a suit, which again is more true to like the old movies, but it works. Mm. Like it's believable. I think the one time that I was like, Godzilla, you don't make any sense to me, is when you see that he's kind of floating in like on like kind of above the water, and then in reality when he sinks, you're like, wait, you were float, like how are you standing up? Like were
like
you like
duck.
Little feet on the bottom of the water? Like that's the only goofy part of it.
People have posted like pictures of like how crocodiles able to do that, and so like that in a way sort of lets me a little bit understand how Godzilla might have been doing it, but yeah, not really, because then there are points where he's just like completely standing above the water.
Just think about how heavy he has to be, man. Like it's insane to just think about that concept. So
maybe he's mostly fluff. No.
Nah.
No, but one of the like moments actually was like I had a big like oh moment was when he was in the city, and then all of a sudden like the old school Godzilla music popped up.
Music, yes.
Yeah,
Dun, dun.
because I was like, oh, that's the old music, and I don't know, I thought that was awesome.
I thought that was
Dun,
really
dun,
cool
dun, dun.
too.
Yeah.
He did it twice. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
You got
Yeah.
that. Hey,
Well, I
calm
know
down.
because
I don't want to get copyrighted and stuff.
my bad humming is not enough. As Spotify recognizes it, and it's like, what? It Godzilla theme song.
But no, Ramon, I didn't want to stop you. If you want to say the moment that like completely crushes you, and then after that, it's just like nothing but tears for me, at least throughout the whole movie. I'm
Well,
like,
yeah,
go ahead
because
and
Raul went a little. I'm like, no, stop. But I also, again, it's the movies is so beautiful.
I just couldn't believe that happened. I just couldn't believe it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
When Godzilla makes it to the city where the girl's working at, and you're just like, crap. Two things that happen from that. You see freaking Shikishima or whatever his name is. Like, really, you see the panic when he finds out that Godzilla's about to like freaking hit land in that area, because then he's like, that he is either. Well, he has feelings for this girl now, right? We don't know if he loves her truly like that, but we know that's where it is. But he like freaking rushes over there. So one, you have the element of seeing this beautiful Godzilla moment. Godzilla doing Godzilla things. He's in the city. He's starting to destroy things. Like, it's great. It's beautiful. Like he's like the scene where he's picking up the train, like you mentioned earlier. Like that's such a Godzilla thing to do, or any monster. Like it's huge because of course there's all these things you can do, and yet so happen to stumble upon the train that carries one of the main characters. You're picking it up and you're like, what's up? But no, like, yes, in reality, like, it was a good Godzilla moment. He's doing some great things. And then you have this dude who's like definitely rushing. You're worried about her because clearly she's stuck on this like train cart at this time, and she's basically about to like fall to her death. And it's just like everything action related. Like, it's not super actiony where it's unbelievable. It's all like, you're like, for a Godzilla movie and what's going on, you're like, yeah, absolutely, like crazy. Like, she's surviving this. And not only does she survive that moment of the train, but then she survives it to the point where she's able to run away too. Which, let me ask you this: why do people, when
Run
there's
straight?
giant ass monster, when giant ass monster like chasing them, they run straight instead of running like horizontally or perpendicular to the track?
They're just running away.
They all
You
went
run
to
to the sides.
they all went to the Prometheus school of running.
Exactly. But yeah, so then you get to the point where like, she's clearing the line of sides, like Godzilla's there, and basically is doing his like blast, and dude's already there with her, and of course as he shoots it, she thinks to push him out of the way instead of her also pushing like both of them out of the way. And we think she dies, and he thinks she dies, and that's where like it gets even more emotional, because now he truly has lost one thing that he cares about, or he gained new care for. And you're broken for him. Like you finally think he deserves somebody. And
I felt like, I don't know, I guess for me, if I had to describe that moment, like I felt like I lost somebody. Like, oh man, like I just lost somebody that I just needed to like open my mouth and say like, I love you, be with me. And I just lost her, and she left a child behind. It's like, without her, like I'm not gonna be able to be the mother that she was able to do and do the things she's able to do. So it's like, I don't know, all these emotions.
I think you could be good enough mother, Carlos.
No,
great mother.
And every time that little girl was like crying and screaming to the cameraman, obviously I'm a father. Obviously my daughter's like around that age. Like I was just destroyed at the idea of like her mom passing away, and now this child's all alone, and this piece of crap dude is only thinking about like, how can I either run away or survive or do something dumb, because clearly we've seen him do nothing but stupid things throughout the whole movie.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, even the scene where they told the little girl that she's not coming back, and she's just like starts crying. I'm like, yeah, me too. Like,
yeah.
Yes.
Go ahead, bro.
Did anybody else kind of get the feeling that like the girl wasn't necessarily gonna cry? So then they're like behind the camera, or like outside of the scene, they like pinched her so she would start crying or something. Because I got that feeling. I totally got that feeling each time that she started crying.
It was more painful. It was more crying out of pain than crying out of emotional pain.
Yeah.
I agree. I don't know, man, but that whole moment, I guess, was really, because then going along with the whole plan that they have to like freaking get Godzilla, right? Which the plan too, like, it makes sense with the whole like pressure with the water and everything, but in reality, I'm still thinking like it's Godzilla, man. Like they said, dude lives underwater. He's like freaking crazy amount of tons heavy. You really think that's gonna do it? And you know, it's a beautiful plan. I just love the idea like that. Like as they're executing the plan, they're thinking about it and they know they need something else. This is where we see him step up with Shikishima finally says, like, I know what to do. Find me a plane. Is there like still planes in commission? And like you hear his plan for it. And like Raul said, then as you start seeing the inner works of that, he's determined to end his his life along with Godzilla. Like great.
Was anybody surprised that when, you know, I expected him when he's like, I need a plane, it was gonna be one of those situations where they find him a plane, but it's like the worst plane that they could have found him, and it's like, oh man,
like
this
a
is gonna
propeller
be
plane
but no, that it was like actually
with one
badass.
wing.
I'm like, they found him like the James Bond of planes. I'm like, oh hell yeah, like that was super cool.
Yeah.
And then it makes it more believable when he is kind of like doing these like circles around Godzilla and dodging Godzilla. I'm like, dude, cutting it too close. I'm like, he's a big monster. I don't think you have to be that precise with your movements, like be that close up. But it was, man.
Dude, at any point were you thinking like, is that plane? First of all, did it ever exist? Are the physics of it working the way it's designed possible? Because it was really cool. Like it almost didn't. It didn't have like a tail. It's just like it didn't seem like it had a tail, and it was just like I don't know. It was just like a really cool plane.
I know, it was weird. Like the propeller was in the back.
Yeah, so
it looked
I
like
don't
it
know.
was backwards. Like it got turned around. They're like, hey, let's make it a cool plane concept and just flip it backwards.
I'm giving you
like
homework.
a concept from Star Wars.
I'm giving you homework, Ramon. So let me know about that plane next week if it's real or not.
I will. I got you. I mean, but yeah. And then, so what do you guys think about just like that final like resolve, or like I guess the final interaction with them? Like, I was just getting excited that they all felt like so confident, and once they finally sink Godzilla, like such a great moment, because just that whole like, dude, think of it, like you have these freaking warships, like these giant ass like, you know, carrier ships, and it's like just that ability that they had, the 2 decoys was crazy, because I missed that part when they were talking, or I don't know if they talked about it, but once you see it,
I don't think they did.
Like, oh, they're whole decoys. I'm like, they're not even real. Like, there's not real people in there. Like, that's
crazy. Like such a waste. I was like, oh,
yeah.
But I get it.
Yeah.
I mean, they kind of understood their enemy, and they knew like right away Godzilla would do what he did with the laser beams. The bread. So that was, but yeah, man. I mean, the whole plan. Because I was skeptical too. I'm like, how are they gonna, you know, like what plan could they realistically come up with? I'm like, obviously it's not gonna work. Obviously, Godzilla, King Kong's gonna come out of nowhere and beat his ass. But no, dude. I mean, I almost like, you know, you said it, Ramon. I was like rooting for them at the end of the movie because I wanted it to work. I wanted everything to be okay, even though I knew Godzilla, no matter what, he was still gonna come out at the very end. But then it all worked out, even the whole like, because I even forgot that he was gonna put his whole plan was like put the plane inside his mouth. Like, dude, I had forgotten about that. To the shot, kind of like you knew when it was gonna happen. I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. Like this is still flying around.
And it's cool too, because like that's another like huge part of the story is like you have the mechanic. He chases down the mechanic because he's like, there's only one person that I can work on this plane for me, because it's not like he had to prove it to him, but yes, he had to prove it to the people that he failed and ended up kind of like, you know, dying in the island. And so it was this another beautiful like moment of like him kind of trying to do what he can to not redeem himself, but redeem those people, or like avenge those people. And I love that whole like relationship that him and the mechanic had, because then once you get to the time where like the mechanic's working on the plane and he's looking at the ejector seat, you're like thinking, it's like, wait, is he really like, is he gonna remove the ejector seat? Because that's the whole part of like Shikishima's plan, where he's like, he doesn't wanna be saved, he doesn't feel that he deserves to be redeemed, because now he lost the girl too. And so, and which is kind of stupid, because then he was gonna orphan the little girl, right? That kind of sucks. Yeah, but that idea that the mechanic already was beyond that, and he already was thinking more of the human component. Yes, of course, you didn't step up before, but doesn't mean that you deserve to die now. And he's basically the one who gave him that like not necessarily the new will to live, but he gave him the opportunity to, because he literally, I thought he didn't tell him about the ejector plane. So when he told him about like, here's the bomb safety, like pull that, I thought that was gonna be the trick. So in the back of my head, I'm like, oh, he's gonna trick him into ejecting, right? And then he's gonna be like, what the heck? And the plane's still gonna go in it. But then I was kind of afraid that, ooh, well, what if that doesn't work? So I'm glad to see that they had the little scene where they showed that he did explain to him, here's the ejector seat, you should live, like you have a reason to live. And it was beautiful, because we find out what happens after his success, which was a freaking beautiful success, by the way.
And I didn't know, like, that was, I mean, it's not a twist, but I really didn't think that it was going to be like she survived. Like, I was like, oh my okay, goodness. Like, like there goes all my tears. Like, why was I crying if this lady was still alive?
but it's crazy the moment where you start suspecting that, right? Because like the telegram comes and the neighbor is kind of like what? And right away she rushes, and then even when she first encounters him, like she just starts like hitting him, because she's like, how stupid are you that you were gonna do this, that you were gonna like leave this poor little girl, and not only that, like the other, like she was alive. Like it's
Dude,
unexpected.
I don't know why I thought it was going to be like his parents are really not dead, like they were actually out of town
for 4 years.
I don't know why I thought that was more likely than her.
No, I mean, it makes sense, because you saw her be blasted away, you saw the rubble, and you were like, yep, nothing's
and then the pullback of it.
Oh yeah,
same thing. Like, I don't know what I thought. I really didn't know what the telegram could have been. The one thing I'm gonna ask you, Ro, because I think Ramon, when I asked you, you kind of had no idea what I was talking about. But did you see when he went to the hospital and he hugged her that she had like something? She's sort of, it felt like she's possibly connected with Godzilla now. Like she had something in her neck, like a little. Like a venom, almost like venom, like a little symbiote thingy, like mark in her neck.
I saw something, but like I don't know, maybe it's like, a burn mark, or
I thought it was a burn mark. Yeah,
I don't know what. Well, it moved. Like that's the thing. Like it moved, so it's alive. So that's where I'm like, and I don't know enough about the old school Godzilla, and I know there's a lot of lore, like stuff, like weird things about it. So I don't know if like going forward they're trying to say, because obviously even with Godzilla, like we know that form of Godzilla is dead, but whatever, it's gonna come out now. Like I don't know if Godzilla going forward is gonna be like this new Godzilla that's reborn. That's when you get the good Godzilla, and maybe that is where like maybe she has
lady.
No, it's not a Godzilla lady, but you know the next Godzilla is probably gonna be like, it's no longer gonna be Godzilla as the destroyer, more like Godzilla the savior that we all know. At least that's where I feel that the movie's going with.
I mean, and I did like that idea. I feel like I don't know. Like, I guess maybe it was supposed to be that small of a glimpse, but you've been right on other parts. Like when we did When Evil Lurks, and you caught the smoke out of the chimney, and I didn't the first time. Like maybe so. Like, and I even just the idea that you get to the end and you see that Godzilla is not 100% dead, because like the little bit of like pieces left are starting to like regrow. Like that's another reason why I'm like, well, you know what? I guess you're not like you're not necessarily wrong. We just don't know yet. But I'm like, that's how crazy it is, because then, what relationship would she have with Godzilla, right? And like what, but also like how would she even gotten that? She didn't have contact with Godzilla, but with maybe the radiation, like, you know, like
it's funny because you type in like her name on Google, it legitimately comes out like Noriko's Godzilla Noriko's neck. It like auto populates.
Really? Okay.
So it's like, you know, I guess it's just like, you know, we see a black mark, but there's really no explanation for it. And like, there's this whole article that I'm not going to read while I'm talking to you guys. But like, obviously, since I'm done with this, like, now that I know you guys don't know the answer for me, like, I have to do my own research.
Of course,
like, I'm curious. I'm like, what does that mean? And then I feel like there is going to be an answer for it, at least. Because I know, like, the butterfly, what's the name of the butterfly? That one has like Mothra. There's human twins that are connected to Mothra. Yeah, so like there's always been like some stuff like that. So I'm like, maybe this is what they're trying to put, like some kind of like person that's connected with Godzilla. I don't know in what way, but I'm excited to do it. Based on the success of this movie, man, I'm excited for what we possibly could get after this.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
So my son is a big fan of Godzilla. Is it appropriate for him to see this?
No, because he can't really. Like, I think the subtitles are gonna mess it up for him.
Subtitles. Yeah. We were about to start watching Haikyuu, but it was only in Japanese. So, and he didn't want to watch it in Spanish, even though he knows Spanish. So we started Blue Lock.
I don't want to necessarily get stuck on the language thing too, but it's just like in reality, would it even have the same impact if it wasn't in Japanese? Because
I
this
don't
is about
know.
the Japanese
Yeah.
people after the
And
war,
the
and that's part of why
culture,
it's
yeah.
so significant, right? You know
Yeah.
what? Something another little like fun thing that
Well,
I
why
heard.
say because of Raul's son's age is like 8, right?
Yeah,
So it's just
Yeah.
like I think for an 8-year-old, you're asking like a little
yeah,
too
Yeah.
much.
maybe
Yeah.
like 12.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but no,
Some
no. Another fun thing that I heard about this movie, and I just want to put it in your heads because I also got to do more research about it. I think I heard it like as I was talking to like a coworker, but it's like the idea that the island where like he first showed up, right, as like the little mini Godzilla, like that, the people in that island already like believed in Godzilla, and or not Godzilla. Well, I forget his name. It was like an Ochuro or something. I can't. I'm just making up names right now. But they believed in another monster like people that are monster that was basically Godzilla, right? But this was pre the nuclear bomb. And then I heard that in reality there was like a different version of this Godzilla that then when the nuclear bomb did hit, then he became irradiated and then that evolved into the new
Oh
Godzilla. So
damn.
so there's this whole idea already of evolution, which again, watch Shin Godzilla if you like the idea of like Godzilla evolving in its different forms. There's not just one Godzilla, is the idea of like Godzilla grows as a being. And the ending of this movie did just that because clearly, like Carlos said, who knows what type of Godzilla we get next in this
Yeah.
series.
Well, like the thing about like the new Godzilla movies, like I've been watching that Apple show, which is Monarch, and that goes
Monarch, yeah.
that's legitimately has to do with all these new Godzilla movies that we've gotten, and I
The
like
American
that show.
Godzillas.
Yeah, the American version of Godzilla, the newest one. And I like that because it kind of does give you the history of like, hey, Godzilla and all these creatures, they've just been around this whole freaking time.
Yeah.
We just never seen it because we've never really gotten into some of these places that are really hard for us to explore. Or, Godzilla has been there, but we didn't have like, the way you call Godzilla is by feeding him like nuclear weapons. It's just like, I like that about it because it does give you that more realistic, like, let's take a look into a world where Godzilla and all these creatures have always been here. We just have never seen them, and it's a little bit hard to swallow that. But it's interesting, man. I kind of do recommend that either you or Ro watch Monarch
Oh, absolutely.
if you like giant monsters, and the way the last episode left, like we're seeing a little bit more of Godzilla, and he looks awesome, man. I don't care what this Godzilla looked awesome, but I am a fan of this American Godzilla.
Yes, yes.
Even though to your point, Ramon, he does look silly running, so I think that was sort of a mistake, but I am a fan
Yeah.
of the way this Godzilla just looks like a giant mountain, and it's like, oh yeah, I do believe like missiles wouldn't do anything to this Godzilla.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean my thing is I guess like at least my kind of closing thoughts are the idea of like we want to believe in this, we love this, like not believe it like Godzilla's real, but I say we want to believe in these worlds, like right, that's what we enjoy about these shows, these movies, is that the ability to like submerge ourselves in this thing and this creature in this universe that we are fans of. And I think there's something to be said about like making it as realistic within that, like you were talking about Monarch and how they're like trying to do different things to explain it. I love that because it gives you more of a fantasy to like believe in, more of a fantasy and more of a world to kind of be in, as opposed to trying to make it more realistic. But I love this movie in a sense that it definitely focused on the struggles and kind of like the pain and suffering going on in Japan after this, and that it was about individuals, it's about a group of people, that it was about like a culture, and then yes, like dealing with that trauma of not only what the world has done to them, but also just this giant ass like Godzilla monster that's there to like ruin it all again. So it's like, they don't have enough that they just got pummeled. And I sent you that little TikTok about like the guys who were talking about possibly why it's -1, Raul. And if you haven't heard this, like they were just talking about the idea that it's called -1 because when the nuclear bomb like hit them, they were already reduced to like ground level 0. And then with Godzilla showing up is like -1. It's like setting them back a whole nother
Got it.
notch. And I love that. And so whoever said that first, and or if that was the directors or the true like screenplay or whatever, like it's just a beautiful concept because then it really puts it above that it's not just about Godzilla. It's about Japan and the people and these people that we're following. So beautiful.
No, other than like, I'm not gonna say anything more than what you just said because everything you said is how I feel about this movie, Ramon. And if I have to say something as my last thoughts about Godzilla in general, I do want to say that it's been a while since I've seen it, but growing up, the American 1999 Godzilla had a big impact on my love for Godzilla. And I know some of the like 80s, 70s Godzilla, clearly those are meant to be like goofy and silly. And if I have to like see the new Godzilla and it's just a goofy Godzilla to me, like I don't care, because to me that Godzilla, I remember like I really enjoyed the design of it. I really thought that Godzilla, at least for me, he worked. I understand like why, you know, Japanese people rejected it and why possibly we didn't get more of that Godzilla. But I do want to say like that Godzilla was one of like my big reasons for like loving giant monsters, kaijus, and I didn't mind the way they designed that Godzilla, even though he looked like a giant iguana. Like I didn't care. I thought he was a cool looking Godzilla.
Not my Godzilla. No, I'm kidding.
Not my
It was not your
Godzilla.
Godzilla. Yeah, so
He
I don't know if
was
we'll
my
ever talk
Godzilla.
about that Godzilla, but I really did like that movie.
I did too.
Yeah. Ro, any last thoughts for you?
Awesome movie. I'll kind of reiterate some of what you guys said. That like, and this kind of shows you how much, or how the fact that you really don't need to have a ton of money to make a good movie. You just got to have a good story and execute it well. If you have those two things, it doesn't matter how much money you really. Well, it matters a little bit, but it doesn't matter whether you have 15 million or 150 million to make a movie, because like you're gonna make a good movie regardless if you have a good story and you execute it well. So, and this was a perfect example of that.
Yeah, no, in a world where there's talks about Warner Brothers and Paramount combining, which it just sounds like at this point, like it's stupid, man. Like it's just start with fresh IPs. Like I just want everything to like burn, and you know, let's just start with fresh IPs, because it's getting too ridiculous with one studio owning like everything, especially with what the crap that we see Warner Brothers is doing, and even Disney Plus. Like I'm accusing them of
Disney.
like just overspending and their budget, and they had such a crappy year for this being their 100th anniversary of them, you know, being around. Like they just had a terrible year with the box office, except for Guardians of the Galaxy. But yeah, man, hopefully this can be something that, you know, we get more of these precious movies from Japan in the future.
Heck yeah, more Godzilla.
More Godzilla. All right, guys. All right. Well, I'll talk to you guys soon. Have a good night, man, and I'll talk to you guys soon for our top 10 of the year. Bye.
Word.